Alright everybody, Baron here. So I'm going to be sharing with you guys some exclusive information that was shared with myself and a couple of other members of, the game playing, YouTubing, and streaming community with the developers from DICE, who are making Star Wars Battlefront 2. In the previous video, I went over space battles and single-player campaign, a lot of the information that was shared with us. Now in this video, we're going to be going over the class-based system and the classes that have been confirmed in Star Wars Battlefront 2, and then finally we're going to be going over how the gameplay, the core gameplay, has been changed in Star Wars Battlefront 2 compared to Star Wars Battlefront 1 by DICE in 2015, right? So let's jump into the class-based system. Now, the first and most it's very important, it's very impactful. The word choice kind of eludes me right now, but the key thing about the classes is that it's going to cover all eras. That means there's going to be 6 different factions in Star Wars Battlefront 2. You're going to have Republic clone troopers versus Separatist droids. Yes, you will get to play as droids. Then you're going to get to play as the Galactic Empire versus the Rebels. And then finally the First Order versus the Resistance. The original trilogy, the prequel trilogy, the sequel trilogy, right? So 6 different factions, and that begs the question, how is that going to be implemented? Are you going, since there's going to be a very deep customization and progression based system for your classes, for your units, for even your heroes and your starfighters, how's that going to work when, you're going to be like, do you only play as clone troopers? Well, let's get into first the classes themselves. So you can see here in this picture of Yavin 4 in the background that there are the 4 classes right there. You've got the officer, who is going to be what I believe, now this isn't unconfirmed, but well, it's obvious that he's going to be a support type class, but I'm also curious if they're going to also have kind of like that engineering type supports, right? Secondly, you're going to have the assault class. Now, this was a pretty big quote by the DICE developers. Now, in Star Wars Battlefront 1, the DICE version of 2015, after the game had been out for a while, almost everybody had jump packs. People were using jump packs a lot. It was almost like there was just too many jump packs in the game, right? Well, there's only going to be one class who will be available to have jump packs. My bet is it's the assault class. The third class is the heavy class, so bigger weaponry, likely bigger armor, some explosions, and some incredible fire rate. And then finally, the fourth class is the specialist class. Now, those are going to be your snipers, your scouts, right? But I'm also curious if those are going to be the classes, or if that's going to be the class where we might see the flame troopers, right, from the Force Awakens. Those First Order troopers, right? Will we also get to see Traitor in his melee weapon, or will those kind of be like power-ups you might pick up on the field? So, another thing is there's 4 classes and heroes. Heroes are technically the 5th class in the game, and you're going to be able to level them up, you're going to be able to customize them, and there will be a progression system for your heroes, which I think is pretty cool to see how that all plays out, right? So basically that brings up a key point, that heroes aren't going to be just some power-up you play, that you randomly find on a map, and then all of a sudden you're just like some guy who's 0-15 and bam, you're Boba Fett and you go on a 60 kill streak. Good lord. Although I did really love playing as Boba Fett, but I wrecked house and so did many other people, right? He was probably one of the best heroes for quite a long time. But the customization and the progression-based aspects is you're going to be able to customize your weaponry. You're probably going to be able to customize your weaponry. Now, there's this theory, and this is unconfirmed. Well, the confirmed thing is that there's not going to be a DLC, right? There's not going to be a Season Pass DLC system for Star Wars Battlefront 2. They're not looking to separate the player base. So that means there's probably going to be a lot of microtransactions for cosmetic stuff, which I am totally fine with. I think that's great. Like, you look at very successful games like League of Legends and Counter-Strike. I almost said Counter-Strike 2. In Counter-Strike, they use systems like that. They're very profitable games. They're very popular games. but really it's just cosmetics that you're buying. You know, I believe that's going to be how it's going to be. I want to play as a Royal Guard, a Crimson Guard. I want to play as a Death Trooper. I want to play as a Mandalorian, and that's something we're going to get into a little bit later. That's one of the coolest things that I'm not sure about, but I can't wait to talk about that. Anyway, so there's going to be a progression-based system for heroes, so I would imagine they get to customize, you know, what Jedi abilities you might be using, Jedi Sith, you know, force powers that you'll have, right? So here's the thing. DICE specified that they didn't want to split the player base, like what they did in the first Battlefront, both with the multiple different game modes as well as the DLC Season Pass system. So that brings up an interesting question. With the 3 eras, basically in the 6 different factions, how are they going to do that? You know, what if some person just plays Republic Clone Troopers? Well, I don't think they're really going to have that option, which brings up something interesting. You know, it's both a pro and a con in a way, but basically with the class-based system, it's going to allow for an easy transition, you know, from Separatist droid to, you know, Rebel from, you know, the classic trilogy, right? Or from First Order Trooper to the Galactic Empire Stormtroopers, right? So there's going to be an easy bit of that, so it makes it seem, and this is kind of me speculating, and many of us speculating truly, that it's going to be kind of like a playlist style, where you'll hop around, just like in Battlefront 1, you hopped between Empire and Rebel Alliance. I would imagine it's that kind of same experience here, right? So you're going to be able to alternate the teams, you know, depending on the map, what factions are playable in that map, and you might alternate between that. So there's going to be cosmetic changes. That's going to be a key thing here, is the cosmetic changes. Now, I believe that you're going to be able to use the same weapons or the same type of weapons. They will look differently probably, but they'll have probably the same base statistics that you would, whether you played as a Separatist droid or a Galactic Stormtrooper or the Resistance from, you know, The Force Awakens. I would imagine they all have those classes and the different weapons, and the progression system therefore can translate through all the eras and all the different factions. That would be my guess. I can't really see it working in any other way, but obviously I could be wrong. But so there's going to be power-ups on the map. They're just not going to be for the starfighters, and they're not going to be for the heroes. So it's like, okay, Baron, well, when am I going to be able to play as a hero? Well, one of the things they wanted to, you know, do was they said that if you're a more skillful player, you're going to have more opportunities to play as a hero than, say, an unskilled player, which was kind of the case in Battlefront 1, and that kind of, you know, cheapened the experience, and a lot of people weren't big fans of it. You know, obviously when I was a noob running around on Hoth, you know, and I got Darth Vader, I really enjoyed it. You know, that was good times. But that being said, there's going to be a more intricate system that's going to determine when you get to use your hero, and I would imagine when you get to use your pilot as well. You know, or different, maybe there's even kind of this, like, you know, in my opinion, there's still 5 classes, but, you know, 4 that you can play immediately. Then there's heroes, there's going to be pilots, and I'm wondering if there's another kind of a class, kind of this interim souped up class that we're going to talk about later, right? But anyway, so let's move to the 4th key thing, the 2nd in this video, but the 4th overall, the overall gameplay. You know, how's it going to play? The overall gameplay, the overall gunplay, the overall experience, right? Well, gunplay is being improved. A lot of the people that are big into that aspect, who've kind of gotten behind the scenes, you know, hush hush on the table, is holy crap, this is a totally different Battlefront. In some aspects it might be similar, more similar to Battlefield. So the gunplay is being improved. Basically, there's going to be a difference when you fire from your hip as opposed to when you're actually aiming, unlike the first Battlefront, where you could pretty much fire from the hip all the time unless you wanted to use one of the sniper type weapons, right? So there's going to be hero versus hero combat and hero versus, you know, regular class combat, and the overall gameplay for the heroes is going to be improved. And like I said earlier, there's going to be more opportunities to use your hero, so there's not going to be random pickups for those heroes. The quote was that there's going to be more physical combat. They're reworking the entire combat system for the heroes, so basically saber wielding, force powered Jedi and Sith, the true heroes of Star Wars, you know, the truly powerful, as opposed to the truly, you know, like the Han Solos and Boba Fett, you know, they're heroes, but they're not Jedis or Sith, right? Now, heroes are also going to react to the more powerful abilities physically, like force pushing, lightning, and stuff like that. So there will be a hero progression and customization system as well. Keep that in mind. So it's kind of like that 5th class. Now, they've also said that there's going to be a difference between a blaster and a rifle as to how weapons will play differently between the classes. So that is going to be a key part that just kind of makes each class unique. Now, one thing that I'm a little bit disappointed with, truthfully, is that currently, and I mean unless they change something, the player battles are going to be limited to 40 players. I was hoping for 100 player giant battles. I thought that would be awesome, right? But right now they're limiting to 40 players. Now, will there be AI? That could be a way that they could really build the overall experience, and maybe a game mode where you get that galactic conquest feel, because a lot of people really love the bots from Star Wars Battlefront 2. They want that experience again. I would love to see that. Now, in the space battles, which we talked about in the previous video, that they were saying that the player base is going to be limited to 24 players, but there's going to be the addition of up to 40 AI spacecraft at a time and capital ships. So that's going to be a truly, you know, large battle. Like, if you think about that, there's 64 entities. Now, I'm hoping they're going to do something similar, or in the future, I would like a bigger game mode for, you know, ground combat other than 40 people, you know, 60 people, 100 people. That'd be pretty cool. So there's a lot of questions that still remain, right? Will there be galactic conquest? Will that be included? We don't really know. What we do know right now is that they have mentioned an offline co-op mode. This is not a part of the single player campaign. You can't play with a friend in the single player campaign. It is a truly single player campaign. But in this offline co-op mode, I wonder if there's going to be that bot, that galactic conquest feel. I'm not entirely sure. It could be, but there's definitely no confirmation on it. Another interesting thing is you'll be able to train offline in skirmish mode. You'll be able to earn rewards, you'll be able to customize your troopers and your heroes and your starfighters. Then you'll be able to bring that progression and that customization into multiplayer. I think that's really good, because a lot of people might shy away from multiplayer first. There's that anxiety, you know, maybe not in shooters, but as much, but it still is. I think it's a good way that you can vary your overall experience and maybe get more players that otherwise wouldn't hop into it to hop in, right? Another question is, will there be VR content in the future? Because that was a very well-received game mode in the first Battlefront, was the VR DLC. And here's a big question that I know a lot of people are dying to know. Will you be able to go from space combat to the ground? Will you be able to take your starfighter and land it? Well, one of the direct quotes was, you're not going to be able to land your starfighter and get out and then fight on the ground. You can escape your starfighter, which is kind of cool, but there's that aspect of what everybody's wanted to see in a Star Wars Battlefront that is still out there and seems like it's unattainable in this next installment. But can you go from space to the ground? You know, can you go from space to atmosphere as a starfighter over battle? That's yet to be determined. You know, so there's this one thing that I want to leave you with. Now, after the reveal session in Orlando at Star Wars Celebration for Battlefront 2, there was the private developers Q&A, right, where we got to ask the DICE devs a number of questions, and if they could answer it, they answered it, and then they kind of had like one or two people standing by like, we cannot answer that yet, right? So hey, game development and all the secrets, right? We need some Bothan spies to find this stuff out. But the cool thing was, after that developer Q&A, which was private, we got to get into these individual conversations with the devs, with a few of them, right? And I was asking, you know, like, my curiosity was going wild. I was wondering, what are the possibilities of this game? What are the little secrets? What are those extra bits of spice that are added that are kind of outside the core, right? So I was asking about bounty hunters. You know, I wanted to know about Boba Fett, super battle droids, droidicas, and even creatures like Wampas and Rancors. Very classic Star Wars, right? So I was asking about animals and creatures, and one thing I was, because you're gonna be able to ride tauntauns, right? Which I think is gonna be another one of those things similar to the hero, where like you'll get points, you'll get it, you'll get progression depending on how you're performing in a battle, and you're able to call in a tauntaun or like a creature, or instead be a pilot or be a hero, right? A Jedi or a Sith, right? But I was asking about the animals and creatures, and they're like, well, we're gonna have animals and creatures all over. I can't tell you what they are or what their purpose, but in some cases they're going to impact gameplay, and other times they're just going to be there like, hey, welcome to Star Wars, right? That was a quote. And then I was asking about bounty hunters and how they're going to be, they're pretty much different from the Jedis and the Sith, those type of heroes. How are that going to be? So I was asking about Boba Fett. And then I was kind of like, yeah, and what about like, and one of the guys with me, Robbie from Star Wars HQ, is like, yeah, what about Mandalorian armor? Like, are we going to be able to like customize a troop there? And then the dev said this. This is a direct quote that I would like to leave you with to kind of get your imagination going. He said, what's the difference between Boba Fett and a regular Mandalorian? Let's find out. I mean, damn. Does that mean I'm going to get to play as a Mandalorian outside of Boba Fett? Will I be able to have that? Is that like... my imagination kind of ran wild with all that. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching this second installment, because this one's already at like 16 minutes right now of the grand reveal and the exclusive information that was shared with me that I wanted to share with you guys, our community, Barons Brigade. Hope you did enjoy it, and man, let me know what you want to see the most, what you're happy with the reveal and after this information, and what you still want. Let's talk about it, let's get some things going, because we now have a voice in the development. It is a voice. I'm not the lead developer or anything like that, but it's not like I'm being left out either. It's pretty fun, and I'm happy for this opportunity that you guys gave me, more or less, because you supported me and you've been a part of this community. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video.